Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Ashton Rodenhiser, CEO, Minds Eye Creative. She's a creative entrepreneur and graphic recorder, and she is passionate about spreading the concept that drawing can be used as a thinking tool, as a visual note-taking tool, especially for the businesses. Welcome to the show, Ashton.
Thank you so much, AJ, for having me today. I'm so glad to be here.
You are welcome to the show, and I'm sure a lot of people, not just in India, but across the globe, will benefit from some important stuff that you are going to share about. So, firstly, to understand for the common person is about visual note taking. What is visual note taking all about? And then we'll talk about the other aspects of it, how we can utilize it for our businesses and other aspects of our lives.
Right on. So visual note taking or sketchnoting, which is another common term for it, is the process of taking notes using a little bit of a visual language. And what that means is incorporating words and drawings into your note taking. So even if you feel like you can't even draw a straight line or you can't even draw a stick person, it's totally possible for you to learn some drawing, really foundational elements to sort of elevate your note taking. And visual note taking is really beneficial tool because the way that our brains think, since most of our people think in pictures, it really helps elevate and solidify the information that you're trying to learn and actually remember long term.
Right. So, from a common man's perspective, Ashton, is note taking is that somebody speaks something, so I write it down.
Right.
And nowadays a lot of tools have also come in terms of note taking. They try and help you. That's what the sales pitch is. But in terms of the traditional method of note taking, if you draw visuals, then somebody will think you are making fun of that guy and you are making his caricature. So how do you help us understand that it is actually note taking and some sort of a very serious stuff and not something nonsense? How do you tell them?
Yeah, it's interesting because most people have a story of being like getting in trouble for doodling in class, and I always tell people like doodling helps you stay focused. Everyone thinks it's the opposite. I do a lot of teaching around teaching people how to do their own visual note taking. As a professional visual note taker, graphic recorder, sketchnoter, I am drawing for other people. And I think most of the time they're just happy that I tried to draw them, that I'm not making fun of them. But a lot of what I do is teaching folks and business owners and people to do their own visual note taking. So maybe no one's ever going to see it, and that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of serious business use, how does one in a business or in any sort of a business association or work, how can they actually use it? Because nowadays at the same time there is the phone there which can record. There are other tools which can record the meetings like Otter AI and so many other tools which can take. So people are not even are permitted even not to pay attention because the AI will just record everything, send you notes, even mark the important parts of this whole discussion. So how does visual note taking come in between? How it can help one learn that whole help the learn that whole thing, and can be sometimes better for your mind, better for your business. How do I understand as a simple business person that yes, this is something which I can actually use and make my business a success through this? Help us understand this part of it.
Yeah, there's definitely different use cases for sure. And I'll start this by saying we live and we work in complexity, right? So at the end of the day, we're using a visual language to help break down complexity, to break down those complex ideas. So I work in a lot of like technology spaces, for example, and we use visuals and simple little drawings and doodles to explain complex systems. And I'm sure we've all heard about the stories of presidential leaders and all these people who wrote something on the back of a napkin, right? So, the idea of drawing something to explain a concept isn't new. I think it's just something that we don't necessarily think of or gravitate towards as like a first thought. It's also great for people that are like kind of lazy in the sense of helping you remember information, because if you capture something like the audio of it, the chances of you going back and looking at it or taking reams and reams and pages of just straight word notes, the chances of you going back and looking at it later are like, yeah, very rare, right? We just kind of shove it into a drawer and never look at it. The act of actually taking the notes will help you a little bit, but if you can do it in a visual way, you can go back and look at it later and go within 10 seconds, remember what that presenter said or what was in that meeting. So sort of a couple different use cases there that hopefully will help people out a little bit. Another one I'll just add quickly too is I've talked and helped people as well through how they can use it on a sales call, for example, and then provide a drawing of what it is that you can do for them after the call. So it shows that you really heard that person too. You heard their needs, what they are looking for, and how you can help them out. And it's something totally unique and different that could really be a differentiator as well. So just a couple ideas for you.
Right, right. So help me understand. You talk about, that it sounds so easy, but suppose if I don't know drawing at all,
Right.
then what do I draw on a piece of paper? And especially in a business setup or anywhere else. So how does it work? Can you give us an example? If somebody is saying something, how do I represent it, especially if I don't know anything about drawing? Do I need to know something about it? Or how does my mind put those things in visual rather than word, which I will be able to, decipher later on? How does it work? Again, I said, if I do it and I don't know how to draw, the person in front will think that I'm not listening to that person and instead drawing something else. And because not everybody knows about visual note taking.
Right. Yeah. So there's a few like core foundational elements that actually have nothing to do with drawing things. So I'll talk about those first. And those are lines, arrows, boxes or containers, bullets, people. Don't have to freak out about people, but people, and then using color. So you can use lines to separate information. You can use lines to connect information, to show a path, right? So let's say you capture some information here and some information here and some information here, but they all link together. You can use simple lines to connect that information across a page. So at its core, to help you with that is I usually encourage people to throw away lined paper. Don't capture on lined paper. Capture on a blank white piece of paper. And ideally, you turn it so it's horizontal. We usually capture notes vertically. We're going to change it all up, and we're going to capture notes in a horizontal fashion on a white piece of paper. And you're going to take that. The information is important, right? We don't want to forget that you need to capture content. Like content is so important. The actual information is important. So capture that information in little bite-sized chunks. So then you can connect them with lines. You can group them together with simple little boxes, squares, circles, or whatever. So then just as like a very core foundational element to kind of help you get started, you don't even have to worry about visual vocabulary and all of that stuff until you kind of get some of these, just getting your brain thinking a bit different. Our brains do like to think in these kind of chunked ways. And so it allows us to help connect those ideas and just start to introduce the concept of a visual note taking in sort of that format can be helpful for people to get started.
Right, right. And who is this visual note taking for apart from the businesses? Is it for students, kids, or people in general life? Can it work there?
Yeah, honestly, it could be for anybody who's trying to help themselves remember information, engage with it in the moment, and then help them retain it learn long term, right? So great for students in high school, college. I had a friend and she ended up doing visual notes for a whole semester in a particular class, and the professor actually purchased the visual notes from them so that they could use them in their next classes. It's great for meetings if you're in meetings for yourself. And then you can even have some of those little action items and share that if you want to with the crew. It doesn't have to be for other people, kind of like how I do it as a professional, but it just be for yourself to kind of help you remember. So if you're in any situation where you're trying to remember something, visual note taking can be an incredibly powerful tool to do that.
Okay. Okay. In terms of presentations, now those are again much more serious settings.
Mm-hmm.
And you have drawn around 2,000 presentations.
Yeah. I'm getting close to like 2,600 now. Just
2,600.
yeah.
So, what do you do with your presentations, and does it work in the business setting? How do I present something just in a visual form? And firstly, I need to decipher it myself. My mind need to decipher it. What exactly in the presentation? What
Mhm.
contains in the presentation? And secondly, people, when they see the presentation, how do they know that I am showing them or talking about some serious stuff which is
Mhm.
there in the presentation? How does it work? Second, how many slides does it again, one presentation, one page, two page, how many pages? Or in terms of presentation, when we talk about slides, how does it work?
Right. Yeah. So I guess when I'm talking about presentations, I'm more so listening to presentations. So let's say someone is talking for half an hour, there's an hour and a half panel discussion. I'm drawing out live in real time what they're saying. So it's more so about that kind of presentations. But oftentimes I'll be in a session either in person or virtually where I'm listening to 5, 6, 7, 10 plus presentations in a day. Is so much content for people to try to remember, right? So it's a bonus for the speakers because now they have this beautiful representation of what they just said, and then great for the attendees because now they have these visual snapshots that they can reflect back on at any time, to actually make changes or take action on that information. Because I think as a speaker, I would hope that one of your main goals is that you want people to hear what you have to say, because maybe you just spent 5 years doing a thing and you learned all the bad things and now you learned all the good things, and you want to help cut through the noise and help people, learn from your mistakes and take action with that information. But if you don't, having this visual tool increases the likelihood that you're going to take action on the information because you can actually remember it, right? When you get back to the office on a Monday, you can look at the visual notes and be like, okay, what was this all these speakers said? What is something that I can enact in my business or my company or whatever? And because I work in like a lot in technology, there's just so much complexity and so many things and ideas that people could act on, and so much information during a conference or a session, right? So the likelihood of actually taking that information, doing something with it can increase. And I've also had speakers tell me that they've used my visual notes as a reflection tool, because if me as basically also a professional listener, if I captured what they were trying to get across, then they're like, okay, I did it. Like if she captured it, then that's probably what most people heard, right? But if I missed something, then it's a reflection on them. Like, did I not emphasize that enough? Like it was like one line on one slide of 30 slides. Like maybe I should have, emphasized that a bit more, or something like that. So it can be an interesting reflection tool for speakers as well. Like, did I get my point across? If she didn't capture it, then maybe I missed my mark or something like that. Yeah.
Right. And who is Mind's Eye Creative for? Can anyone join it, or what is this all about? And who is this company for?
Yeah, so like my business is really interesting because I don't really have a particular demographic of clients. I do work heavily in technology and cybersecurity, but I work in many different industries. So I get to learn about a lot of different things, which is really, really fun and fascinating for me. So, people who want to hire me as a professional graphic recorder to come in and visualize their conference or their meeting or their strategic planning session, all of those things. That's one way. And then I also teach visual note taking, sketchnoting as well. So anybody who's learning or who wants to learn how to do visual note taking for themselves, then they can certainly work with me to do that as well. Yeah.
Right, right. And how is the adoption of this visual note taking happening in the industry as well as in our general life? Because a lot of tools have also come. Secondly, since your services are, you can provide it across the globe. So, how do you look at new technologies coming in? Are they a competition to your stuff that you are doing, or do you look as them as more enablers for what you do, or is it both ways? They can be, difficult for your business, but they are at the same time helping you reach out a larger audience. How do you look at it from that angle?
That's an interesting question, and I'm not sure if I'm going to answer it exactly the way that you phrased it, but I will speak about a few things. It's interesting because when I started out years ago, I was worried that technology, people would just want to be so focused on technology, and this drawing something by hand is just going to go by the wayside. And I do draw on a screen as an option as well, but I thought that especially my technology people, they would want me to be very digital. They'd want me to use digital tools. They would want me to be like very digital in the way that I work. But I was really surprised and continue to experience that a lot of these folks in technology that you'd think they'd want me to use technology are really happy for me to show up with a gigantic roll of paper and markers and capture this in a very analog way. So yeah, it's a funny thing that I have experienced over time that hasn't changed too much yet. That even though I do have the option to do things and incorporate some tech and some digital tools, people still really appreciate and love this hands tangible. It's not every day that you can have this life size, like 8 feet long drawing, and you can actually manipulate and like touch the paper and go, yeah, these were my thoughts, right? So I think it's here to stay for at least a little while. There's definitely some professionals in my field that are using augmented reality to add in extra elements of the work. So they might capture something on paper, but they've got icons around that someone can take their smartphone and it can pop up a report or pop up another presentation link to another presentation or something like that. So I think there's like interesting and unique use cases where we can incorporate technology to elevate this type of work. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think the more that people experience what I do, the more it is sought out. Not It's still novel to a lot of people. Like I'm still surprised when I encounter people and they say they've never seen this before in their life. And I'm like, when it's my day in and day out, every day I'm doing this, I'm still surprised that people have never experienced it. So I think there's still a lot of novelty around it for sure. And, I did an event last week and someone said, I think your work, because they've hired me 2 times now, that, the reason, one of the things, how I'm doing it and visualizing the presentations, they think that's one of the reasons why speakers want to speak at their conference. Right. So, that's good for me because they're going to keep bringing me back if they know that they're going to get a visual representation of their presentation. Right. So, you can give, like a lot of conferences and events and stuff will give them as that gift to the speaker. And it's just totally unique and different. So, yes, I think there's going to be lots of use cases to incorporate technology in really unique and interesting ways. But, I think, there is research around taking physical notes helps us remember more than taking type notes. So I don't think you can dispute some of that information and the statistics that have come out over time and how we learn and how our brains connect with information. And we're just such visual beings. Like that's why YouTube is the second largest search engine, because someone would rather watch a video, right? And YouTube's not going away anytime soon. So, that's my soapbox for the day.
No, wonderful, wonderful. It's nice. It's nice that as you are keeping creativity alive, you are keeping that visual medium alive. You are keeping that learning alive because humans are all about learning and making themselves better and better. Machines can learn as much as possible, but humans will always continue to learn more, learn better, and that will continue to make them, better. Sometimes perhaps create new challenges for themselves, but they will also at the same time, many humans will find different solutions, different ways to move forward. So what's the best way for people to learn more about this from you, and also people who want to professionally engage with you?
Yeah, so I actually have a book coming out on June 20th, The Beginner's Guide to Sketchnoting. And I've been working on this for over a year now, and I'm very excited that it's finally going to be in the world. I did beta reading and got lots of amazing feedback from dozens of people. And so I'm really excited to have that in the world. And people can certainly connect with me on all the different social medias that you're gonna share this out in. And yeah, so I have a new website that I launched with the launch of my book, which is sketchnote.school. And so you can also sign up for a weekly newsletter where I provide a sketchnoting tip on every Saturday. So Sketchnote Saturday. And there's also a 10-minute video, 15-minute video to walk you through how to draw your very first sketch note. And I walk through the whole process. And after the 15 minutes, you have your very first one, which is very exciting. So lots of free stuff that you can experience with that too. And yeah, if folks want to talk to me about like their next event or conference, then they can certainly reach out at mindsedcreative.ca or on any of the socials to connect with me and talk to me about what that would look like to help elevate their event with visual. Yeah.
Wonderful. So on this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me, AJ. Have a great day.